Japan, Part 176, all of which are supplemented by an excess of supply of tankers, approximately 90 days on shore petroleum storage capacity. With these efforts and their vigorous conservation programs, the danger of a serious energy problem in Japan seems remote. With dollar devaluation, Japanese can now import oil so cheaply that some of the previous plans to reduce energy-intensive industrial production now seem unnecessary. As for international resistance to Japanese products, this will undoubtedly cause problems in certain selected industries, but the flexibility of the Japanese government's guidance and the capacity of the Japanese system to rapidly absorb information concerning trends and the responsibilities of Japanese firms give Japan many options. The fact is that the Japanese are likely to remain extraordinarily competitive in the world markets for a long time. What they reluctantly give up in labor-intensive industries like textiles and low-level electronics can more than be replaced by their rapidly growing capacity in new high-technology fields such as copiers, computers, telecommunication equipment, a capacity that already threatens to weaken some of America's few remaining areas of competitive strength. Not only do exports of consumer goods continue to increase, but huge integrated Japanese construction projects in many parts of the world are growing rapidly, providing an outlet for the Japanese production without attracting political reactions, as do consumer products. Japanese investment throughout the world are already catching up and surpassing American investment in many areas. Although investment in America have begun slowly, they can be expected to increase rapidly in the years ahead. With Japan, female temporary workers are generally first laid off in times of economic difficulty. But in the recession years of 1977, for example, the number of women in the labor force increased almost 2%, far more than the growth of women in population. The much heralded cleavages in Japanese society are sufficiently quiet that leftist political leaders still bemoan the lower level of the consciousness of the Japanese workers. The Japanese fear of inundation by foreigners has receded as the value of the dollar has fallen because so few foreigners can afford to live in or visit Japan. In short, within the next decade at least, Japan appears to have the leadership, cohesion, and the group support necessary to maintain a highly effective and post-industrial society without any great changes in its institutions. Creating and borrowing. Can the United States, with its strongest trading tradition of individualism, acquire a system, however admirable and effective, that is based on very different premises? When Japan began borrowing from the West in the late 19th century, it had hoped it could get technology without giving up the Eastern spirit. In the end, Japan had to change its own spirit and institutions for more than originally intended. Japan's ultimate success should not mask the turmoil of the process, but Japan found that it could effectively transplant institutions that, with its tradition, it had not been able to create. It is not accident that the early basic discoveries of the modern sciences, technology, and industry originated in Western Europe and the United States, where individuality and creativity flourished. The first generation of the industrialists in Europe acquired their skills through their own experiences, but the first generation of the industrialists in Japan spent many years in training programs, acquiring the experience of the others. In the turmoil of the early Meiji period, some great individual entrepreneurs and the charismatic leaders played a crucial role. But the dominant pattern for catching up was the central government planning and guidance, close government-business cooperation, and the rapid creation of the large private institutions through centralized capital accumulation and formal training programs.